Someone emailed me from Canada, and I'm very flattered about it, asking me to advise on buying a Porsche and what to look for, and sent me the advert to say what I think of that car. So instead of replying to one person, I thought I should make a little video, and hopefully it will help several people. I've bought and sold, I don't know, 40-50 cars in my life, and in my younger years I used to buy and sell cars just to make money. Sometimes I would fix them up, and sometimes just wash them and sell them, and that would make money. Right, so I thought I should sit on a park bench and make this video instead of walking around. Some lovely dogs around, my little pooch trying to play with them. What should one be looking for when buying a second-hand car? I think it applies to all cars, but specifically for a sports car, there are quite a few things you need to be careful of. First of all, you need to have a very good history, and with all the paperwork, if it's a car that's, I don't know, more than 5-6 years old, make sure you can get a full history and it's not brand new written, because over 5-6 years people would have ruffled up the paper, it will look old and smudged, so it's very easy to fake and create history for cars. The other thing is to make sure you buy it from a reputable dealer. If it's from a private person, then insist on all the possible history. If it's had too many owners, which they will tell you that it's okay to have too many owners for sports cars because people change them very frequently, it also shows that they've been owned by people who can't really afford a sports car, but they want to just enjoy it for a short period and then they give up. So that means the car has had too many owners who are perhaps not able to afford a sports car. Especially Porsches. When people buy a Porsche, no matter what your dealers tell you, most of the people that I know will keep it for 2-3 years, if not longer. There are people in London who've had their Porsches for 10, 15, 20 years. So usually if you have a Porsche, you'll have a couple of other cars, so you wouldn't really use it every day. So the mileage is another important thing. A Porsche, and I'll tell you in miles and pounds because that's how we work, and you can convert it into pounds and kilometers or whatever you want. 5,000 miles to 7,000 miles is roughly how much a Porsche is driven per year. So my car is now 2 years old, and I've done about 12,000 miles on it, so roughly 6,000, and I drive my car a lot. So you need to be conscious of that, but there are plenty of people who can clock their cars. And clocking cars in England refers to adjusting or changing the mileage so the car doesn't look like it's done too many miles. And again, it's one of those things you need to be careful of. So don't just look at the mileage, go through the history and see if the car has done the same amount of miles, or roughly the same amount of miles for its life, rather than doing 20,000 miles in 1 year and then doing 200 in another, which means that it wasn't parked in a garage, they've just clocked it. Again, you need to then not just stick with the history, you need to look at the car. Get down on your hands and knees, look underneath the car, because on the outside they can get detailing done and other things, but underneath the car you will see if there's any kind of damage or wear tear. It will show you more about the history of the car underneath than what you would see on the outside. When you want to figure out how old a car is, then several things you need to check, because let's say you look at a car and it's done 30,000 miles, but how do you validate? You've looked at the paperwork, you're not sure, then you should start looking at the sill, the seats, because getting in and out of that car on a regular basis will cause the leather to have creases and marks. Sometimes they clean up the leather, sometimes they even change the seats, in which case it's harder. But look at the steering wheel. If you hold the steering wheel every day, the amount of wear, tear, if the leather is very, very smooth and shiny, those are signs of excessive polishing, because Porsches have matte finish on the leather. If it's too shiny, that means it's probably been repaired and reworked, especially by not a very good expert, because an expert would put it back to matte. Lift the rubbers under the front bonnet to see if there are any signs of repair work. Look under the arches. Start the engine when it's cold. Porsches usually blow out a little bit of smoke when you first start them in the morning and the engine is cold. They tend to use a bit of oil, and that's normal, but the inside of the exhaust should never be greasy. If you've put your finger in it and you can see anything that's either oily black or even just horribly black, means that there's something wrong with the engine. It's also important to get something like AA, RAC, or whatever service you have in your country that does checks on your car or on a car. Pay them $150 or $200, because it's definitely worth getting an expert to come and have a look, because ball socket joints in the steering wheels, shock absorbers, coil springs, little things that you may not know about, they will cost you a lot of money to repair. If you buy it from an independent or a Porsche dealer, make sure you always get a warranty, and don't get a 3-month warranty, get a 12-month warranty. Usually they'll include that in the price. If it's an authorized Porsche dealer, then they'll give you a 2-year warranty, which is great. But if it's an independent dealer, they usually give you 6 months or 12 months. Try to negotiate that in the price, but if you have to pay a little extra, then it's worth it. When you go through the warranty details, make sure you read what kind of warranty it is and what it covers. Several warranties say uninsured parts versus insured parts, so they'll put a part, say like a belt, that's not insured, but if a belt breaks and damages some other part of your car, then they say, well, an uninsured part damaged an insured part, so therefore we're not going to pay. All these little things. So look at the reputation of that insurance or warranty company to see what kind of record do they have, what people think about it. So those are the kind of key things, but examining the car is the most important thing. Have a look at the brakes, because it's very important to see what condition the brake discs are in, and also have a look at the pads. You can actually see what percentage of pads are remaining, and if you look at this disc and you touch it and there are grooves and massive lines in it, and there is a lip developing here, that means it's going to need replacing. Roughly all, I think, brakes and discs on a car like this cost about £1,000 to £1,500. Maybe cheaper or different in your countries, but that's roughly. Tires, again, same thing. You need to check whether there's feathering on the tires, which means the car has been tracked a lot. And similarly, if the brakes have massive marks on them, then they have used either cheap brake pads or the discs are worn and they've tracked the car a lot. Porsches are very comfortable going on tracks, and they are sports cars to be driven on tracks. The only thing is that people track their cars but they don't look after them, and then end up cutting corners. For example, if someone buys a car for a short period because they always wanted to own a Porsche and they didn't have the means, so they buy a Porsche for a short period and then they use it and abuse it and then sell it on. Therefore you'll have too many owners and the car won't be well looked after. The other important thing is to look at the panel alignments, the bumper alignments, doors, the rubber seals that go along all of this, windscreen, because if they have taken off the panels and if the work has not been done by a very good specialist, then there might be some misalignment. So always look at both sides and compare. Look for stone chips on the bonnet, the bumper, any signs of repair. Look on the inside of the bumpers and other parts, because what you want to make sure is that the car hasn't been painted. Some cars may have had some paint work, but as long as it's not been done by a cowboy and you're ending up buying a car that's going to cost you a lot of money in the long run and will be harder to sell.